And we're live. Welcome to Flow Show. We have Sara Felice here and
Jim Glover here,
who is just pulling something up on the phone. We're getting ready. We have a really exciting show. This is going to be a juicy conversation, I think. What's the story you're MarkeTelling? We're going to dive into this. Join us for a great show. And we're back.
That was quite the crazy piece.
That was quite the crazy piece. Just never know what you're going to stream in your music. Love it.
Exactly.
It's fun. Love to add the creativity. Tim Glover is a singer-songwriter and also an artist. He painted that beautiful painting behind the, and actually I have one of his pieces as well.
Right in the background. This is flow number 1. That was actually flow number 3.
This was flow 3.
Yeah.
Cool. I love it.
So I thought very, very creatively. Let's actually call them, number 1, number 2, number 3.
So
I finally got a good understanding of what it is I'm going to paint next, because I've been searching around for it and I couldn't really lock on anything.
Is it Flow Network Studios that's you're painting next?
Yeah,
or am I in a queue?
You're in a queue, I think.
Oh,
I mean, and the queue is just me just trying to stay receptive, because yeah. Well, also I need canvas. Like for your space, I need a huge amount of canvas.
Well, I'm ready. I'm excited for that. I got a huge space. Tim Glover's pieces are sold through Flow Network. So if you'd like one, put in your order before he gets too busy.
Yes, exactly. I got a couple back orders right now, but I'm receptive. And also I can be bribed at times.
Oh.
Something I'm all that proud of, but nonetheless, if you throw in a swimming pool and a new barbecue, then I'm in.
Okay, well, there you have it. So thanks for joining us. If you're tuning in the future, let us know. We always go back to the comments, and this is all about engagement and just engaging with our audience and having conversation in these unprecedented times that we are in. Adopting the flow, the concept of flow and flow states is so key. We are in unknown, uncertainty, and we always really were in uncertainty. And
yes.
The systems that we did have in place would lead us to believe that things were very linear and logical, and we had a certain pathway forward, and that is no more. There is a new normal in town, and flow really is the way to go. And Tim and I have been working on something called MarkeTelling, which is a whole new orientation to what we foresaw even before this pandemic occurred, was new ways of doing business, of connecting, of marketing, of sales, leadership, culture change that had this real holistic mindset. And were you able to pull up your LinkedIn?
I got my
today.
I was trying to figure out where I should place it here so it doesn't actually disrupt my view. But yes,
I put it up on the screen because we just thought, let's read this today. So I'll read one and then you read one. And if you're here in the chats, let us know you're here. So what if how we have been taught to focus our attention is precisely how we end up getting stuck and staying stuck?
What if referring to our head smarts rather than our heart smarts to navigate life's ups and downs is exactly the problem that informs every other problem in our world?
This is, I'm afraid, as far as the head first orientation will get us on the road to sustained success. Yes, the head first is no more.
The head first has been something we've been doing forever. And head coherence and all those wonderful things, that's only going to get us so far. And we have now hit the end of that road. This pandemic is the very first in our lifetime well-being crisis that we as a collective species are now navigating. This well-being crisis is triggering the biggest wealth transfer in the history of our species. Governments are taking money, making money out of they're actually just manifesting money out of nowhere and then throwing it at students, throwing it at people. It's like an amazing it's unprecedented.
Yes, you're going to love this because we talked a lot about the external network effect that the VCs have done. I was watching a Gary Vee episode earlier today, and he was talking about how he's been calling them. That's just never going to work. It's not sustainable. We keep throwing money at these businesses that haven't really proven that they're, steadily making an income. And now they're all, in this place where, okay, we do really have to do something differently. So the wealth transfer, I love this. And we have a different orientation to what that means. And I've actually been talking about that throughout my different videos and on my podcast.
Yes, I've been the one getting the big education, because the wealth transfer that most of the business people have been looking at is intergenerational wealth transfer. This is the biggest wealth transfer from what was actually the legacy leaders and boomers, and they're transferring it to their likely the matriarch and then the family. And so the interesting thing with that story is that there's not been very many people in that space, the wealth transfer space, that have been able to get a handle on what that's all about and how to be able to go and help the wealthy, big wealth family trust figure this out.
Right. And my take on the wealth transfer is it's not necessarily about figuring it out, but letting it flow to those of us who understand it is about the heart-centric and the energetic mathematics that is this existence. We are all just energy and information. It will naturally flow to those who have this open heart and who are understanding our connection, our interconnectivity to one another, to the importance of doing what we love and being connected to the earth. And this is the result of the shift we're seeing in the economy, is that it just wasn't sustainable. And this is the natural, in my perspective, the natural order of the universe, of the law of nature, to have money continuously flowing.
Yes.
So it's my turn next. What if the story we have been market telling ourselves regarding well-being and wealth has been the wrong story?
And I'm just going to take a second in here and just to say market telling. So where our capacity to be able to generate wealth through well-being starts with the story we're telling ourselves. So to be able to go and Sara was the one who cleverly coined this, I believe, or we did together. Can't remember how it actually came about, but the idea with marketing, typically marketing is outward focused and you're push marketing. And it's telemarketing. It's all about telling other people all the wonderful things they're missing out on and scaring people using fear and using funnels that squeeze people so that they actually buy. So we did a flip on that. MarkeTelling is saying, what's the story you're actually telling yourself? You're marketing to yourself with this notion of MarkeTelling ourselves regarding wealth and well-being. And what if that's actually been wrong entirely?
Yeah, MarkeTelling. Yeah, like you said, the flip of telemarketing and this pushing your message maybe to people that don't necessarily want to hear what you have to say, and the MarkeTelling being the flip of pulling, with this concept of when we're in alignment with when we're in alignment, we are resonant with ourselves. And from that resonant place, we actually become a magnet. We become a pull attractor. And so with the stories we're telling ourselves, they better be in alignment with our true essence. They better, be in alignment with ourselves. And also at the same coin, what is the market telling us? And how can we respond to the needs of the market versus, hey, this is what I want to do. Push, 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 take my stuff, buy into what I believe, right? And that's what I love about what we do. We're just kind of here being ourselves. We have this you be you.
You be you.
And if you resonate with us, you resonate with us. And if you don't, you don't. And that's great.
Yeah. So what if how we get unstuck and stay unstuck starts with MarkeTelling ourselves a brand new, 100% uniquely tailored to ourselves, you, me, everybody else who's listening, everyone else in the world, 100% uniquely tailored to ourselves, heart-centric story that features our well-being in the lead position, such that well-being begets wealth.
That's right. What if, in this new complex, chaotic reality, sustained, heart-coherent well-being is precisely what informs sustained wealth for all?
And what if you are the hero in that story? And what if we all are the heroes in that story? Because up until this pandemic, the heroes have been the individuals who have position power as a function of the hierarchies that they are living in. So they are actually on the top of the heap in the pyramid as a function of the hierarchy, and which gives them position power. And that actually has been inverted. How do we do that? There we go, guys. It's been inverted. That looks like a dance.
It does. We'll have to make up a dance for that.
Yeah.
Put it on TikTok.
Personal power is what actually is dictating from a heart-centric orientation. Personal power is what attracts wealth, what attracts power. And you have said it all along. Is wealth is money, which is love, which is just the information and energy associated with accumulation, the attraction of huge amount of wealth is the equivalent of love, which is the heart orientation. And up until now, all the structures that have been put in place to be able to go and drive a certain agenda using our head to be able to go and strategize and then compete. And I had my challenges yesterday doing a video. It'll be coming out later on today, but it actually helps us understand that within the context of where we've been as a society, we've actually all been convinced and convincing ourselves that the way to go forward has been push, 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 push. Well, we pushed as far as we can go. We now have to actually sit and start to listen inside as to where do we want to allow ourselves to be pulled. And that is the hero's journey, to go inside and actually be guided by, initially it's a call that's inside, and then be guided initially by external guides, what we call interdependent guides. And then you start to find, with their help, you start to find your internal guidance system and start to discover, oh, lo and behold, it's heart-centric, it's not head-centric. And the bump, which is just this stunning thing that I never really saw, and I was blindsided very recently on, is the energetic bump that you get from moving from head-centric to heart-centric is massive. So it actually engages the head in a whole spectrum that it could never access if it was actually just going head first, which, imagine my surprise. Yeah, the whole heart.
So what happened for you in that time when you shift?
I think that because I've talked.
What was the surprise?
The surprise is I've always understood that it's head-centric. So head-centered leadership, and then it has been head-centered leadership that only gets us up to this notion of we got 5 levels: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Most of humanity and business is stuck at level 3 because that's as far as you can go with head-centric. So this pandemic. Booth is throwing us into complexity, and to get over that complexity wall or move into complex logic, you have to use your heart to navigate, which I got. Like, use your heart, it's intuition, got it. What I didn't appreciate is on the scale of consciousness, using Dr. Hawkins, David Hawkins' scale of consciousness from 0 to it's a logarithmic scale from 0 to 1,000. You, with a head-centric orientation to life and business, you can only get on that scale of consciousness to 499. You cannot get above 500. You cannot get 600, 700. You can't get to that high level.
And those high levels are peace, joy,
love, it's like really peace, joy, love,
transcendence. Yes.
Totally transcended. And this is where our attractors really come online, and we're attracting absolutely everything we need instantaneously. So I've known about that for quite some time. What I didn't realize is that once you actually move into heart coherence, it not only acts as an attractor to allow you to move and transcend that 499 and lower. And oh, by the way, Einstein was 499. So never did get above the 500 frequency in his lifetime. So to get to that higher frequency, you go through heart, and heart bumps the energy signature that your head is able to access. So not only do you have this heart-centered orientation to telling stories and navigation, and my wife calls it empathic listening. So you're listening to each other with your heart. Well, imagine my surprise, because I'm listening from my heart and I go, I'm getting nothing. I'm just hearing my heartbeat. What's that about? So I'm trying to listen, and she would say, because she's understood this since we got together, which is a long time ago. And she's been trying to teach me that. I go, okay, I go in there, I'm hearing nobody. I can't make sense of what you're saying to me until I get in my head. She said, that's the problem. You can't hear what needs to be said. And so the thing that's happened over the last little while, and it has been really recently, is moving from head coherence, trying to make sense of it all from a head, to moving into the heart and allowing that vibrational frequency to pick up. First off, I can actually deal with all kinds of unconscious bias and eliminate it like really, really quickly. But more importantly, it provides me with insight to navigate. And so I have developed, which Sara, you've been privy to. I developed this ability to see things and actually see things before they're happening, even. So it's just, and hear things and feel things that they were always there, but I wasn't too keen on actually going and encouraging that because it really didn't fit into the story. I was MarkeTelling myself as a chartered accountant or CFO or general manager of an advertising agency, or even as a consultant.
Yeah.
And most of the companies that we work with were not heart-centric particularly, so we were bridging them from head to heart. So it was from level 3 to level 4. And in this last little while, I've come to understand what level 5 is, which is the transcendent state. So it's transformation at level 4. At the 5th level, it's transcendent. You transcend your orientation to absolutely everything. And you are no longer deaf, numb, and blind, as you are at level 3 or even 4, to all this magic that's happening around. Because there's drums that show up in your reception area when you're actually imagining that you want to have a drum from an individual. Maybe you could actually tell that story.
Yeah, well, the power of being so aligned, and then also, because just to speak to the head space and trying to make sense of things.
Yeah.
There's no way we can make sense of this multidimensional world and all of the beautiful aspects of existence from just a simple level of the head, with all of our various programming and conscious biases that we created our identities, and then our attachment to our identities and how we've defined ourselves, as you said, like, having different designations and all these ways of identifying. We can't make sense of anything outside of that unless we are in the heart and we're not trying to make sense of things, and we're just allowing the experience to happen and continually growing in that space and realizing we are so much more than we have been told about what it means to be human. And there's, we've been having a conversation before the show about people like Greg Braden and all these pioneers who've been putting out these out there ways of thinking that might have been called conspiracies or whatever labels. But the fact of the matter is that there is so much more to existence. And so my previous network, 5D TV network, was talking about this notion of our level of frequency and how we, using David Hawking's scale of consciousness as an example of the levels of frequency that we can exist in as humans. And when we get to those higher levels, we can, and when we are really fully just beaming light and love, again, money is one way we can attract and bring, as an example. Like, money is just a metaphor for love. But really, we can bring in anything we need, or anything it is that we are putting our focus on, for example. So I was looking to get a drum. I love just drumming, and just a hand drum. And I posted a video on my Facebook, and I thought, I really want to drum. And I even remembered a man that I met in a networking event 2 years ago. I thought of him. I saw him in my mind. And yesterday I went to go for a walk. And for whatever reason, I decided to go for a walk a little bit earlier than I normally did. Right at the bottom of the elevator, didn't I see that man? And didn't I get that drum this very day? That's just amazing. Like that. So, and that's, it's not just me. Anybody that I speak to who is awakened to this, like, oh my gosh, there's so much more to being human than the stories we have previously been told. And when we open ourselves up to these new stories and we allow ourselves to change the narrative of what our inner reality is about, and we start to see that reflected in our outer reality, regardless of what's going on the planet, and regardless of what other stories are out there. This is the whole concept of, like, our reality is truly 100% subjective. So where are we putting our focus? And the more tuned in we are, the more resonant we are and aligned we are to that core and truth of what we are, the more effortless things come into our life, and we really do get into this state of flow.
I'm so like, it's a lot has happened, and a lot happens on a week-to-week basis right now. But I am, because of these shifts, and I'm listening to you tell your story. I go, wow, yeah. So Rome, perfect. I love this.
I know, isn't this great? Now we've got this new technology, and so we can put people's comments up there. So please do put your comments, because again, we love engaging. And he says, I wonder if it is premonition or manifestation. And I have the same thoughts about that as well. I have many videos talking about, like, are we really abracadabraing and manifesting things, or are we in such a relationship with reality that we start to see things just slightly before they happen? And really, that's inspiration. When we get anything that sort of comes to us, whether you use the word stream or channel or whatever it is, that is a form of guidance, of divine guidance, to act in an inspiring way. And if we interrupt that guidance with our logical mind, we stay stuck. Ultimately.
So my wife's on a conference call in the other room, and as
hi Sharon.
As I said on this, so she's got ovarian cancer, and she's already beaten hypoglycemia, which is you're not supposed to be able to beat. She's also beat fibromyalgia, and here's the third one, cancer. And when you were talking earlier about manifesting and that type of thing, I was reminded of my wife when we met 27 years ago. She would talk about this, and in talking about it, and talking about manifesting, and talking about manifesting drums and everything else. And I thought she was nuts. I had some experience with this, but not to the degree that I've had as a result of that. And my role with her was to help her understand the business world. Her role was to be able to help me understand this other realm. And it's really interesting, because our paths, we kind of did the little, whatever that is, the swan neck dance in and out the waves, and crossing each other. And just again today, she reminded me of those conversations, and how the challenge right now, having been doing this with clients and having had this dance for so many years, both of us are saying, is now's the time? Is this the time that we've been actually doing the shape shifting for 27 years? We've been actually talking about things in ways that business people could kind of get, and it didn't push the envelope too much and make them upset. And when you and I, Sarah, would be talking about this kind of stuff, there was a few times where there was some upsetness, because I was really freaking out of it. No, this is the way it actually works. Don't be telling me all this other stuff, and Greg Braden this, and Bruce Lipton that, and that's going to blow my whole mindset. And we worked our way through that, and here we are on the other side. You're manifesting drums, and it just seems to me that yes, this is the whole pandemic where the business world is looking for what the hell's going on, and I no longer have to actually do the shape-shifting language and go, here it is, folks.
The lid's coming off.
Maybe it's a bit weird. We had a party with a client that we turned around. This would have been, I don't know, 20 years ago, 15, something like that. And there was a whole executive team and a whole bunch of other people. And they said, so with Tim and Sharon, you can now take your masks off and show us that you actually are, E.T. was the whole idea. It was E.T. and there was this other movie out at the time where all of a sudden they started running. They were just light, and they were bouncing around the room or something. And they were all looking at us and said, okay, now you can actually do this, because what you were able to help us do was literally impossible. We have no idea. We can't tell anybody else. We can't even actually refer you, because they'll say we've stepped and we're lost our minds. So sorry, we're not really able to refer you, but you really helped us like crazy. We really appreciate it. Here's a whole case of wine, and here's some other stuff, and here's some other stuff. And now all of a sudden,
it is the time.
This is the new norm. And I, to your point, we talked about this earlier, there are a whack of people in the closet who have been in the closet around this, and it just wasn't cool, because it just wasn't cool to talk about it.
Right.
It wasn't cool to.
Not only cool, but you would obviously often get attacked by so many other people who were who were very much stuck in the head. I know you guys have lots of stories about that.
But here's the other thing that I just actually pieced together in the last few days. So we get Heart Math. You should check out Heart Math. Anybody who's interested in Heart Math, they have a free offer right now. They have some seminars and things. But Heart Math is a not-for-profit. The Heart Institute, Mind Institute, Mind Valley, they're all not-for-profits. And I was thinking about this for quite some time because we've been for-profit all the time.
Mind Valley is not-for-profit? I don't think so.
Mind Valley, for me, I think is actually set up as a not-for-profit, and then actually does a bunch of things, and then actually goes and pays people big money to come and do stuff. But as a for-profit, especially if you're in the United States, you get attacked. And you get shut down in a for-profit. In a not-for-profit, it's understand that you're not really going to hurt much of us because you're kind of like in this little bubble. So we'll leave you alone. And all of a sudden, the not-for-profits are actually I feel like they're the tall poppies that are starting to lift their head and go, hey, we've been talking about this for 20 years. We've been talking about this for 30 years. We've been talking about it for 50 years.
Yeah, well, we've been talking about this awakening that we're in that has been a blessing of this. The blessing side of the pandemic is we're fresh new eyes about what reality is.
Right.
And more people are questioning the narrative of mainstream media, right? And they're looking to different sources and different information that really has been out there for quite some time. And maybe those stories make a little bit more sense and resonate a little bit deeper with the essence of who we are. And this is changing everything. And so many people are awakening and open to.
Well, they were already awake. Like I saw Rome's comment.
Let's flash it up.
Just as empath. So we're all from my perspective.
Of course, we're
all empaths. We're all streaming these streams of conscious information and energy.
Yeah.
It's just when we can label it, we go, okay, at least I'm not losing my mind. But I've not seen a lot of people talk about. We're streaming constantly. We're actually streaming breath. Breath is breathing us as opposed to we breathing breath. We're streaming information plus energy streams. That's who we are.
Yeah. This is the new lens, to understand. And this is, we use the words of, we don't have control over our reality. The only thing we have control over is our response. So from that perspective and that understanding, what if we are in a movie? What if we look at our life as the observer of our life? And this is ultimately what the idea of transcendence is to kind of get out of the game of duality and then jump in and choose to dive into this reality with that understanding that nothing is good or bad. It's our thinking that makes it so, as Shakespeare talks about. And then going into this game and then being able and having the ability to just simply observe and play with the polarity.
Yes.
And how differently life can be from that space.
Well, so there's the other weirdness. You just gave it language, which is not all that surprising because here we are streaming each other. And everybody else who's listening and who's not yet tuned in is that Michael Singer talks about it. And he's talking about the idea of witnessing, transcending and witnessing the experience of being just behind our heart and then actually experiencing what's going on with the humanness relative to the beingness. And I was explaining to you that that's an experience I've been having over the last few months, and really kind of that was a bit disorienting, just to say. And now all of a sudden it just kind of makes sense. And there's such a quickening in the heart, especially when we actually connect, you and I, and then we connect through this vehicle that is social media, because there's a whole pile of people whose hearts are opening up.
Right.
And I've experienced those historically, that connection is very, very fear-based, because it is like people are actually going, oh my God, like what the heck is going on?
Well, there is this disorientation. I just posted a video about my disorientation exactly a year ago when I was awakening to a deeper idea, like letting go of an old identity and really expanding into a new one. And it is disorienting. And this is why, for me, I get really excited to have conversations like this, because there's so many people out there who are having the same experience. Their hearts are opening. Maybe they can't explain what's going on, and they want to, just to have conversations out there. Yeah. They can connect and say, "Oh, okay, this is the new normal. This is okay. I can actually respond with love to this experience versus fear. And that's going to just continue to expand your experience. And, like you had mentioned, there's been a lot of people who have already had some sort of awakening, but have stayed in the closet about it because the past story being it wasn't acceptable to show your, I use the word multidimensional side, our superpowers, our, these other ways of being. So the stream I see right now is more and more people talking about this and then saying, okay, so now is our opportunity to redefine what reality is and start to lay down a new foundation for what business looks like moving forward. Understanding community building is so key to this, even redefining what wealth is all about and what well-being is all about. And
well, Hawkins would talk about, I think he passed just a few years ago, but he would talk about, like, what's the point of hoarding wealth? Because there was a stage where he went through and he had I think a clinic in New York. I'd be wrong. I'm not sure exactly where it was, but he had a clinic and he was seeing patients and healing all kinds of things that no one else could help heal. And then finally just got tired of it because it just became so crazy. And there were people lined up and and then he decided, I'm out and I'm on my farm and I'm just going to kind of do what I need to do. I walk down the road, guy drives by, he has an extra loaf of bread. He gives me the other piece of bread. I actually do this. We don't need to hoard wealth. Wealth is available to us all the time. All we have to do is just manifest.
That's right.
And manifest and consciously navigate with that understanding that that's who we are. And I remember reading that and thinking, well, that's cool. Like, as an artist at the time, because I probably was doing a creative thing at the time, I thought, yeah, I like that. Because that's how songs come. That's how opportunities come to actually, guest appearances, or how something gets, CBC picked us up and did a special on us, and all of a sudden we go, okay, what was that about? And then we get tied into the people who were investing in us. We're tied into they were big players in provincial government, and we're doing this, and this. And I thought, well, how did that happen? It just happened. It's the way it works. And so it was a lot easier that in that space, in the creative space, because all the other artists we were hanging around with, they were having a similar experience. You go, yeah, this is reality. And then we left that and went back into business because we both felt called to actually get back into business and help business transit. And it's been a lot of years. And here we are finally. Oh my goodness, I could actually go have a bit of a lie down for a while because it's been quite the journey getting to here.
Yes. A lot of us have had quite the journeys getting to here. I like to say it's that contrast that really allows us to appreciate what we truly are.
Yes.
That contrast.
Yeah. And then it makes it easier, which I've been carrying around all of this. I'm freaking must be crazy. Finally able to let it go. And my mentor would always say, well, you've been carrying that around not just this lifetime, but tons of lifetimes. When you're able to let it go, you feel tired. Like you feel exceedingly tired because you've been carrying that extra density.
Right.
That's the whole idea, is letting go of the density down here to sustain the higher frequency.
Right. And then letting yourself rest and regenerate after doing all that carrying of lifetimes is so important. And then to realize, why were we moving so fast in life anyway? Like, what if life is a lot simpler and can be a lot simpler? And that for me is what we're moving forward into, which is really exciting. Rome said on the news yesterday was about the worldwide pollution has subsided, continues to question if we have had enough time to realize how much difference we can make. That's right. And this is the thing. This is, so many of us who have been awakened, we've been using our imagination to dream up a different world and to dream up, I wish I didn't have to commute in traffic. I wish, this different healthcare system that was more holistic. That was my journey. When I studied holistic nutrition, I was really kind of shocked into what I had learned about, let's just say pharmaceuticals, and we'll just leave it at that. But, having this anger and this passion to wanting to make change and awakening different ways we address our well-being and our education system and everything. And so many of us have been doing this in our own little bubbles, using our imagination, maybe not all of us for using our imagination in the flow states. Maybe some of us have been definitely in fear and unconscious of all the fears that we've had about life. So this is what's being reflected right now is we have this rise of fear on the planet, but we also have this rise of healing happening. And there's so many people who have felt crazy from their past being like, oh my gosh, I'm not crazy. And now this is a part of the wealth transfer, is the amount of time the people such as yourself and Rome on the line and whoever else is joining, who awakening to, something's not in alignment with who I am and what the outer world is representing. So we've been planting seeds inside of ourselves. And this is what we talk about as well, the internal network effect, and people like Greg Braden talking about the power of prayer, and Bruce Lipton talking about, our internal reality and our environment actually creates who we are. So we've been planting the seeds, and now it's the inner reality is like this wave is now being reflected outside of this polarity that we've had on the planet, this fear and this love and this healing. And the earth has had this time in our pausing to heal so quickly. And so quickly. And this is it, like in this space of deep love, miracles can literally happen every day. Yeah.
And there's an interesting thing, using a scientific frame of reference, there's now scientific evidence to support that. And it's in that category, it's like 100 years ago, they actually discovered quantum mechanics, except they didn't know what to do about it.
Right.
30, 50 ago. Yeah. What miracles have you seen? Yes.
Well, it's funny because Bruce Lipton, I sent the video that I sent you that he shared just a couple of days ago. He was talking about this fact of science. And we shared about this as well, I think, on one of our series that we did, The Big Play or something like that, how science, traditional science, let's call it, was birthed out of a linear logic from a headspace. Quantum science and quantum mechanics is not the opposite, but it speaks to this multidimensionality that we are. And so he was saying, if we're going to question any type of science, it's definitely not quantum mechanics. Right. Like that's the one solid thing we have to define this chaotic reality or this complex living system that we are. And, what if we do question some of the science, or not necessarily question it, but just realize like how much importance we've had trying to define logical things or not so logical things, with having to back it up with science. Like this is true because the science community agrees that it's true. Right. And
giving our power away to the legacy orientation to science, because there's a whole whack of people who actually are experts in the science world in nonlinear quantum logic, but because of the way the structure of science has been created, they have not gotten the place where they actually got the funding or they got the microphone to be able to go and share this, because it runs so contrary. And because tenure is established in academia in the way it is, you get tenure because at a certain point in time, you did a whole bunch of stuff, and then you become part of the pyramid that has to be sustained during your lifetime, or you don't have a job anymore. And so it's structure, and the structure that's been created out there is been informed by the structure of our thinking. That's right. To actually make sure the structure that we go forward is always premised on the past. And that at 38 to 29 in the live show is now like it's just whoosh.
This is the big pivot. This is the new normal. And I'm putting up our flownetwork.ca, which I'm so proud of this project that we've worked on, Tim.
Yes.
Over the last year, and coming up with ways of helping other leaders who resonate with our message. We have something, Flow Leadership, and then also the MarkeTelling, where we work with big businesses that are looking to make this big pivot, and understanding that there's a change that needs to happen. And this is definitely your expertise, Tim, in working with businesses over the last 27 years. And also very thankful for having you in my life as well, in my big pivot, and you're in Sharon's, as I've been sharing in our different shows, your different orientation, and being able to, find someone that thinks like I do in a time when I was feeling kind of crazy.
Yeah. Well, as I was saying just before we were on the show, there is Avatar. There's a movie, and they say in Avatar, "I see you."
One of my favorites.
Right. So I see you, and the other expression that we use is "I feel you." And so I'm pretty clear that I've felt you for quite some time, and over the last few weeks in particular, because there's just a huge confirmation that we're not alone. We're all connected. Yes. But at a high frequency, there's a whole pile of people who are actually being validated that other people would say, hey, you got some mental health challenges there, buddy.
Yeah.
Like, you need to get back. You need to become Mr. CA and go out there and, keep that course. And you're actually really kind of starting to confuse other people. And if you don't shut up, we're actually going to shut you down.
Right.
We went through that.
Right. And it's easier to shut people down so that they don't have to try to think of another reality, right? We want to. It's just one of our biases is that we always want to bring people down to the level that we are in, and the power and the importance of community and these types of connections. I know for myself, if I had had that way back, I would have been able to transcend all the times and ways that I had felt crazy. And that's a part of my passion, and just broadcasting my message is, if anybody hears this, you're not crazy and you're not alone.
You're not crazy.
And we need you. We need you to share your voice as well.
We do.
Me too.
I really love this new format. This is
me too. Isn't it great?
It is. So we have to go over and out.
Let's flow over and out. Do you want to play? Do you have your guitar around to do a little extra for us?
I'll do a frantic floater and out.
Sure. And as you're playing your thing, we'll read the last comment. Another is, we are so selfish. Not many would sacrifice for the better of the horde. Thanks so much for tuning in, everybody. We look forward to seeing you next week. 12/12.
Floater and out.